What is up, guys? Teddy Cornwell here. Welcome to the Underdog Talk. And Gil, you know there is something about the underdog, but today we have an absolute beast on the Underdog Talk. I mean, today's guest is a psychologist, organizational consultant, and a keynote speaker. And this just astounds me with 30, you guys heard that, 30 years of experience working with some of the biggest CEOs, including my favorite, working with Israel's largest organizations. And I was really interested in the police force that you worked with. Also, the author of the bestseller, my favorite book now, Winning with Underdogs. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Gil Wench. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing really, really good. Thanks.
Now, Gil, and for those who don't know, and if you haven't watched, we had Gil's twin brother on, Guy, and I asked the same question. And your accent, I just love it, man. It is like the coolest thing in the world. Has anyone ever told you that, Gil?
Well, British accents, for some reason, sometimes sound smart. Even we might be extremely stupid with a smart accent, but I think it's the accent.
It must be the accent. I wish I would have that accent when I said stupid things so no one would question me. Now, Gil, you were born in London, England, obviously, and I mentioned Israel, and you're currently in Israel. So my question to you is, how did Israel come into play? As you know, you do have so many high accolades there, but why Israel?
Well, I was never asked. My parents brought us here when we were young, around eight. And at some point they left and we stayed. And then at some point my brother left and I stayed.
Wow.
And I'm a firm believer if you don't like what's happening at the place you're in, try and fix it. So I'm staying and trying to do my bit to make society a bit, let's say, healthier or something. And that was the same thing that led me to agree to work with a chief of police. Also, it was something I thought if I do a good job, it will help a lot of people. So that's why I did it. It's not my main interest, but I did it because I thought it could have a serious impact on society, and pretty much that's always what's been driving me.
And Gil, it's almost like everything happens for a reason, sir. And obviously, one of the big things that just astounded me is, I mean, you were a consultant to the Israeli National Chief of Police. I mean, what was that like?
Well, I got to tell you, when I was much younger, I was under the assumption that really, really, really senior people in an organization have to be exceptional people. But I think many young people, they think the same thing, but they lose the people. They have to be exceptional. And well, no, they just have to be people. They don't necessarily exceptional. So when I started working with like really, really important people, I think maybe the first time or second time I was at the beginning in some kind of awe about their station or how much they're making or how successful they are. Really, really, really quickly, you're down to it, just people. And they have a bigger job, a smaller job, they're earning more, they're earning less. And it's amazing. You can talk to a deputy CEO who's making millions of dollars, and he seems like the top of the world. And then you go into the board meeting, and he's sitting there and he's not confident enough. And if his boss or the board or his CEO isn't giving him enough regarding that meeting, then it could create sort of all sorts of feelings of insecurity. And people are just people. And sometimes they're really high up, so we tend to elevate them in our minds as well. But they're working, they're doing the best they can. At the end of the day, they're people. They have securities and insecurities and wants and needs and hopes and dreams, and they want to look good to certain. So it's yeah, you get used to basically it's just people often battling the same kind of thing, just on a bigger stage, perhaps.
Um, and people are people, human beings are human beings. Obviously, mistakes, successes. It's like life's a big up and down, as you know. Now, you talk about giving back to the community, and that is something you really have just shown with CY. Would you mind talking about what CY is and why decide to start CY?
Um, yeah, happily. See why it started out all about people with disabilities. I learned just by chance that about 1 billion people in the world have disabilities, which pretty much I knew. It's about 15% of the world. What I didn't know is that it doesn't matter which country you go to. If you're looking at the disability population, most of them are unemployed, a large majority of, and when you look at people with severe disabilities, and there are about, let's say, a few 100 million of those amongst us, 4 to 5% of every population, they are nearly entirely unemployed. And when I first heard that, I nodded, but between you and me, it makes sense, right? Severely disabled people, they're out of a job. Well, they're severely disabled. When I thought about it just a bit, it didn't make sense anymore, because I'll just give you a couple of examples and you'll see what I'm saying. 80% of the people who are legally blind and are horrifically unemployed have enough sight left to function on a computer and can talk on the phone, which is what most people do at work all day. Why are they unemployed globally in every country? People in a wheelchair, why are they so unemployed? I mean, we're not doing the Industrial Revolution anymore. We're not going down to the coal mines necessarily to make a living. You can just sit even at home with a screen and a phone and work. So why globally are all these people unemployed? Obviously, every economy that has more people working in it is going to be a stronger economy. So it's worthwhile for nations and for economies to have everybody working. It's obviously worthwhile for the communities and for the people with disabilities and their families themselves. It's dramatic for them, the difference between working or not working. And then I said, well, if it's not their disabilities keeping them out of a job, because it doesn't seem to be in the modern day, because you can do jobs with very little movement or ability or whatever, why are they out of a job? Work? Why are they out of a job? I even said, 10% of all the CEOs statistically are going to have a disabled kid.
Wow.
Why has nobody fixed it? 10% of all the researchers of the world. If it's 1 in 6 or something, think about how 10% of the heads of government. I know you have heads of government with kids who are disabled, and yet globally, for no obvious reason, they're all unemployed. And I thought that creates so much misery for 1 billion people, or if 60 or 70% are unemployed, so 700 million people worldwide and their families, and for communities, and it's got nothing apparently to do with the disabilities themselves. Then one thing came to my mind: it's solvable. I don't know how to solve disabilities, but if it's not the disabilities keeping them out of a job, it's solvable. And any progress down that road would alleviate so much human suffering. I got sucked up into the mystery of what the hell is going on there. I'm not disabled. I don't have any, I have wicked ADD and I'm dyslexic, but I can read books and obviously write one. I don't have a disability. I don't have family members with a disability. It just sort of stayed with me that these, the farthest down the underdog totem pole you go is the severely disabled, probably, and then there are all the rest that are also out of a job. And I thought, this is something I need to look into. That was 21 years ago, and I did.
21 years ago. I mean, I was 2 years old at that point, Gil, when you really just made a huge impact on. I had no idea the statistics of that. Now, what has been the most rewarding thing about CY for you? I mean, is this a global organization? Is this, or just focusing in Israel?
Well, I have quite a few limitations, insofar as I'm I own a business with a few hundred employees, CY, which is a social business, but I'm not a business person. I tend to think much more people than what's profitable and the business part of things.
Yeah.
I don't know how to franchise. What I do know, I know quite well, but there's so many things I don't know. And I've spent all my time proving that our unique model and everything we do in CY, and we hire people nobody else wanted, and we succeed with them. And I'll just explain about CY. 2/3 of the company are severely disabled people. A third are other employment underdogs. We have lots of cons and ex-cons.
Wow.
Single people, parents. 10% of the company started with us when they were older than 65. So we have older people. Everybody nobody else pretty much wants, we'll be happy to take on. We have screening and all, but we're there for the people who, the underdogs, the people who don't have a natural place or less wanted or sought after elsewhere. And we're a call center, so I could prove that our productivity is as good as anybody else. And we're an outsourced call center, so there are always many other teams doing exactly what you're doing, and everything is measured, apples to apples, metric measurement, so I can always prove, and that was the general idea, that we are as good as, if not better, than other teams. And just think about this for a moment. Imagine that someone is taking the Paralympic team to the regular Olympics and is expecting them to compete with totally regular people and get on the podium. And that's what we're doing. We have teams of 3 people with the 100% emotional disabilities, 2 people with cancer. One of them, the cancer came back. This guy is an amputee and it's acting up. And at the end of the day, nobody knows this. The people who call in, they don't know this, but they expect to get exactly the same service they're used to getting or they should be getting. And we provide it with teams that are totally different. And it's all because we put together, after lots of research, a model of all the real reasons people are out of work, and they're not what everybody thinks. And we catered to each and every one of those reasons. And I opened CY just to be a proving case, just to have like a showcase. We could bring people in and say, look, everyone that you know or in your country, because we have so many countries come over, that's disabled, he's sitting rotting at home, not because they lack ability, but because we lack understanding of what they need in order for that ability to come through. And that's the reason I opened it. But I've been spending the past 15 years in perfecting our model, and it's been only pretty much the past 2 years when I decided to write the book.
Yeah.
And get our playbook out there, because I wanted other people to know what we know so other people can succeed with people with disabilities. I want to change the world in that regard. So it's only been the past 2 years that I've been looking outside the constraints of our company to see, all right, how do I start spreading the word now that I feel confident that we have a really strong word to spread, so to speak. So I started the company a while ago, but now, we're just now at the stage of letting people know that it exists and it's out there and there is something to be done.
So, Gil, then where can one support CY? I mean, is this something that, as a viewer, I can donate to? How can a viewer support CY?
Well, that's a lovely question. Actually, no one's actually asked me that question. We're not a foundation. If I would have opened a foundation, it would have been much easier for me. But then everybody would say, yeah, but you're showing us a foundation. It's not real life. It's not the real free market. So when you're saying you're the same, you can also get donations. It's not exactly the same. So no, I decided to become a social business. Now, in Israel, there is no such thing. They started the law, they never finished it. So there's a foundation and a regular business. There's no social business. Other than us, we decided we're the category. And we defined it this way. No one in the company can earn more than 5 times anyone else. So if management wants to earn more, help everybody else earn more. And I got to say, no one's up to 4 times anybody else. It's a real social business in that respect. I mean, take Amazon and you'll see that their CEO probably earns more than 4 times the lowest, maybe even 5 or plus. And there's that. We've been around for 15 years. We never gave out a dividend. We always use the money to further our knowledge and our know-how and learn how to bring aboard even more difficult people or people who need more effort to get up to steam. So it's a real social business in that regard. It was built just to further the social point, but in order to make that point, we have to make enough money just to keep our head above water and be viable financially. So
that makes a lot more sense to me. I understand it's not a foundation; it's an actual business to prove that point that these people, these underdogs, can do what normal people can do, if not better. Now, Gil, what is the actual training that goes into from onboarding to being able to actually call? What is that all like? If you would mind talking about that.
I'll tell you about the training in just one sec. I just want to fill in one more thing that I just talked about. If you want to support us, there is a way. Get people to read the book. Between you and me, I'd love them to buy it, but I don't care if they just read it or Kindle it or hear it somewhere. I want our knowledge out there because everybody is going about the diversity thing wrong. And there is a right way. And I'll give a few examples by the way we do things as opposed to the way everybody else does things. And that's why it's not working anywhere else, but it's working for us. So imagine even anybody listening to us who maybe has never worked before or who's been outside the workplace for a while. There's no way that's not going to hurt your self-confidence because, everybody's doing something you haven't, and now all of a sudden you need to join them. So you're always joining, it doesn't matter if you're disabled or not, with much less self-confidence and self-efficacy and self-worth because you've been out for a while. And then you get called up for an interview. And the traditional way of doing interviews is very cold, detached, judgmental. They decide if they want you or not. You've got no say in the matter pretty much. You're not even sure if you've never worked before why they're putting you through these exercises, what they want to see. It's a very difficult experience to go to an interview, and 92% of adults say they have a lot of anxiety through interviews. But if you don't have confidence, that anxiety is going to make you perform well below your regular standard. And if you've never worked before and you are disabled in some way, or you're an ex-con and people have issues, then you're going to be well below your standard. So any kind of screening procedure that creates any kind of anxiety will make you present so below what you can, people won't want you. They'll just see a bunch of anxiety. It can actually make people not understand a regular request just because of the anxiety. People don't realize how badly it can affect us. Regular people, it can hurt them, but not destroy them. But the longer you've been out of work, the larger that slap in the face is going to be of anxiety and cold, detached corporate culture. So people don't pass screening. And I've heard so many times people say, I would hire people with disabilities. I just can't seem to find the right ones. Well, the way you're screening, you never will. And even generally, to choose partners for a long term, like businesses want to, by a one-sided, judgmental, cold, detached interview is a stupid way of going about it, because you're choosing your partner at their worst. Imagine if you were dating and the person you were dating had just woken up, they had a bad flu, there's snot everywhere, they look horrific, they feel horrific, and this is the first date. They're not going to be leaving the best impression possible, and it would be stupid to date them because you would be arriving at the wrong conclusions about them in that circumstance. But that's what traditional screening does. It tries to choose people by seeing them at their worst. We want to see them at their best. So everything we do is in order to provide them with the best stage to show their stuff. So there's no anxiety. People know exactly, they can read on our website exactly what they're coming in for. They can ask to do over. They can ask to bring a friend. They can ask to bring a parent. They can ask to bring a dog. They can ask to bring a parrot. All of these are accepted and have happened. The friends and the parents are not allowed to talk during the process, but the dog and the parrot can help them out as much as they feel they need. We don't care about that. But so it starts out like that. It starts out in the cafeteria, and the interviewer sees himself as a host. Mm-hmm. and he makes them coffee or tea, and then he gives them a questionnaire about their loves and passions. And the first 10 minutes, we talk about their loves and passions, because people are most verbal when they talk about things they love and have a passion for. And then they get shown around like a VIP. They can ask at any point, why are we doing this? What are we doing? They get to grade us at the end of it. And the grade is how much we help them present themselves at their best. We want to know. So it's a totally, we call it the reverse screening process, because we do everything the opposite than regular. And that is something that happens all along the life cycle of our employees. Our wanted ads are different. Our screening is different. We do social onboarding. We put an awful lot of emphasis on making people feel part of the family as quickly as possible. And usually you join a team, you're the only newbie, you don't know anyone, you don't know anything. We put an awful lot of effort in making people really feel accepted really quickly, because then they'll be at their best. And then the team will have someone joining them at their best. So everybody will have a lighter and easier task. We manage people totally differently. There's one word that if you do Google Scholar and you put that word in together with management, you won't find anything. And that word is caring. Caring is not a managerial word. And if you put it in Google Scholar, you'll find caring homes, about managers in caring homes. But there's nothing about caring. And to my mind, caring is the most important word in management. When people feel cared for, not as an asset, as an individual, then they really give you everything they have. They feel safe, and you'll see the best of them. So caring is a huge part of our managerial creed, and how to create that kind of caring, especially with people who haven't necessarily, a lot of our managers and staff are disabled themselves, not necessarily have much work experience. So how do people with no work experience manage if they're not charismatic or don't have great verbal skills? They do it by caring. And that's what we train everybody to care, and that we're a community, and everybody, has each other's back in the community. And that creates a workforce that it's rare to see. It's like a team that really, really gives a shit about each other. And it doesn't matter if they're Jews, Muslims, Christians, if they're straight or questioning or whatever. We put everything aside and we just see the people there, and we don't care how many limbs they have or how many faculties are available. It's just all about people and caring for them. And if you care for your people, really care for them, they will take care of your customers, really care for them, and then your business is really cared for. I think we're doing things the right way, but it's pretty much the opposite of how corporations go about business. That's why it's so important for me to get the playbook out there, because if you want to start doing real diversity, it's not going to work unless you change the culture, and the culture's got to change from the top down.
I mean, Gil, I guess the saying after listening to all that is, there is just something about the underdog. There truly is. And guys, please go check out Winning with Underdogs. And first, I will be buying my copy after this. First person to get a book, let me know. I will send you a goodie basket. I mean, I'm so excited to read the book. The reviews are phenomenal. The message is phenomenal. Now, ending this, Gil, what to you is an underdog?
I'm probably going to be a bit disappointing. Most underdogs don't even know they're underdogs. They don't know they're on the same level field. I mean, if we have any women listening, the global gender wage parity gap is 34%. In America, it's close to 20%. That means an American woman doing exactly the same job as a male counterpart, earning an average salary, will earn $500,000 more than $500,000 less just because she's female. And that's 18% in America today, and it still exists. And they're underdogs now. Some of them are earning a great living, but you'd earn a bit more so they don't know they're underdogs. Some people don't feel they've ever had any kind of things they have to fight against. People of color have to send in twice as many CVs to get the same amount of interviews, but they don't necessarily know that. So underdog is not a question of how you feel. It's a question of, do you belong to any, in my mind, when it comes to employment underdogs, do you belong to any kind of a group that will make it harder for you, if you know it or not, to move forward, to succeed, just because of the group you belong to, just because
Yeah.
the color of your skin or your preference or your religious beliefs or your faculties or the amount of limbs you have, just because of that, regardless of everything else, you're going to have to work harder. Those are underdogs, and many of them get along great without knowing.
Yeah.
But there'll be some of them always that different regard will keep them out. And so underdogs are many, many people, but the edge of the scale, towards the edge of the scale, you have a large group whose underdog status is really impinging their success and their life and their capability to find work and keep it and stuff like that. And the book was written to allow them. I really believe that you can find a job for anybody who's not institutionalized. Anybody. I mean, even people with cognitive disabilities, they can clean tables in restaurants, be buses, do a room service in hotels. You can find enough jobs for everybody with any kind of disability or criminal record out there. But often these jobs aren't available. When they are, people don't know how to help the person succeed in those jobs, how to screen them and manage them and all that. So
Yeah.
underdogs for me is everybody who's not getting a fair shake in the workplace, either by being kept out of it or by being part of it, but not knowing that they need to work harder to get to the same place.
Wow. And I mean, I guess the other thing is underdogs are truly the hungriest. Gil, I mean, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for taking your time to talk about this. And it is such an important, message and seeing the human in humans. It's almost like seeing the good in people and seeing past whatever they may present themselves. Now, Gil, where can we find your content? I mean, where can we find your books? Do you have a Instagram, social media? What is all that, sir?
So I'll tell you what I do have. You can find my book pretty much everywhere,
Yep.
Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, all sorts of private places, and you can order it. And please do and pass it along. And if you meet people in the diversity space, let them know that such a thing exists and that knowledge is out there. I'm in LinkedIn, and I reciprocate when people write. I write back. I'm not in any other social media, and I probably won't be. I think I missed that train by maybe 10 to 15 years. So yeah, I'm sticking to the LinkedIn part of life. I have a TED Talk you can find on TED.com. I have a website. You can reach out easily. Some people contact me through CY, and I always answer because I'm here to try and create change. And I have no idea who's reaching out, and I'll always see if there's any change to be made.
Boom, boom, boom. And I mean, that link to Gil's website will be in the bio of this YouTube video. I mean, please go check it out. Watch the TED Talk. Learn about CY. I mean, I've been fascinated by it. And I think we can all do something to help each other. I mean, we are humans, no matter what our skin color is, race, all of that. We're humans at the end of the day. I mean, that message is loud, clear, and important. Guys, one more time. I mean, Gil Winch, an honor, a privilege. And I guess I just got to say it one more time. I said I wouldn't say it, but there is something about the underdog. Have a good one, ladies and gentlemen, and check out Gil's book. Till next time, guys. Underdog, out.